My fellow Caymanians, I want to speak with you today to put your mind at ease regarding the PACT government intention to explore refinancing opportunities, one of which is through the bond market. I am aware that the opposition leader has issued a statement on this issue, and while he is entitled to his own opinion, he is not entitled to his own facts. The facts are as follows. In September of 2020, the previous government secured a line of credit for US $403 million at a rate of 3.25% that expires in June of this year. At that time, the then Minister of Finance, who is now the leader of the opposition, had this to say.
I think that is, at this point, certainly for the short to medium term, it should be very, very sufficient for us. That's why I think we also said we'd go for the additional 170 million, get approval from the LA and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office for that. So that will give whoever's going to be occupying the cabinet in 2021, it will give them that additional ability to go back and authority really to go ahead and borrow money if it becomes necessary. But this really gives us a very significant cushion to continue to weather out the trials of COVID.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. The PACT government now occupies the cabinet and believes that with interest rate at its lowest, this is the best time to explore all available options. In September of last year, the Isle of Man, which has a similar credit rating as the Cayman Islands, secured a 30-year, £400 million bond at a rate of 1.625%, which is half the rate the previous government agreed. While they borrowed in a different currency, it still serves as a credible indicator of the current market conditions, and I am sure you would agree that it is only sensible that we find ways to save the government money while securing funding to invest in our people and our infrastructure. I wanted to reassure you of several facts. Firstly, I recognize that being in opposition affords the luxury of criticizing for the sake of criticizing and provides voluntary amnesia on the foundations they laid for their successors to build on. Secondly, refinancing government debt and borrowing to finance much needed capital projects is exactly what it says on the label, nothing more. It has absolutely nothing to do with borrowing to fund the government's day-to-day expenses or the creation of a welfare state as claimed. Thirdly, there's a distinction to be made between handouts and hand-ups. The PACT government is not about giving handouts. We are about offering opportunities for our people to achieve their full potential, unencumbered by policies that make it harder for them to do so. We are committed to being investors in our people and our infrastructure. We recognize that we must prepare our people to be part of a global workforce and are committed to enforcing our immigration laws to ensure that our people get the first opportunity for gainful employment. We know that a first-class education is a prerequisite to our people joining the global workforce. We are therefore putting more funding into education to improve the quality and delivery at primary and secondary levels. We are also expanding the opportunities at a tertiary level. As our Honourable Premier Wayne Panton alluded to in his budget address, we are too small, too talented, and too rich to even contemplate creating a welfare state. Instead, we are creating an environment in which our people not only survive, but also prosper. This does not mean we're throwing free money at people. It means we're structuring public services to benefit more for our people in more tangible ways. We have all heard the parable, and so to speak, we are indeed teaching and equipping our people to fish. We intend to offer working Caymanians relief and the opportunity to build for their future and their children's future. This means reducing the cost of living, providing free school meals to nourish young, growing minds, increasing educational scholarships, and providing access to borrowing for affordable homes. My friends, this government is committed to increasing home ownership amongst Caymanians. To this end, 28 million of borrowing will be used. This government is committed for the National Housing Development Trust and the Cayman Islands Development Bank to assist in the building and financing of these homes. While the opposition may not support this initiative, we as a government recognize that shelter is a basic human right and home ownership is a dream for many Caymanians. To this end, we are also exploring the possibility of underwriting loans above 30 years to give our young people an opportunity to access loans where the monthly repayment is affordable. Once they have enough equity built up, they can access funding from the traditional banks. Again, while this may not be an initiative that the opposition supports, we are committed to our young people owning a piece of the Cayman Rock. We understand that our people want to be working, productive, and contributing citizens, and are working in all areas to make this happen. We reject the assertion putting money into programs to educate, support, and equip our people for a brighter and more equitable future is giving them handouts. This is insulting to the intelligence, tenacity, and national character of the Caymanian people. Many of the social programs costing us the most money were put in place by the current opposition. The system of public aid under their administration was criticized by both the Auditor General and the Public Accounts Committee for being unsystematic, missing the people who needed help the most, and open to abuse and fraud. My colleague, the Honorable Minister for Social Development, is working diligently to vastly improve and streamline the delivery of financial aid services to ensure that the people who are truly in need are those who benefit. He has the full support of the entire PACT government in doing so. The opposition started assistance programs while Cayman was in the depth of the COVID-19 pandemic to help our people who had lost their livelihoods almost overnight. When they were doing it, it was considered a necessary handout. The PACT government is now duty-bound by the ongoing effects of the pandemic to continue these programs until displaced workers have returned to employment. We are seeking to ensure that displaced Caymanian tourism workers are hired first by the hospitality industry, and find it ironic that this is now being criticized as handouts. Handouts that the opposition campaigned on increasing as they won the election. Matthew 23, verses 27 to 28 addresses the issue of hypocrites. As I noted in my budget address in November of last year, the day-to-day expenses of the Cayman Islands will be paid for by the day-to-day revenues. In short, we can meet our day-to-day operational expenses. Furthermore, under my tenure as Minister of Finance, we will see our financial position return to compliance with the Public Management and Finance Act, despite 2 years of suffering the adverse financial effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In March of 2021, 1 month before the general election and 1 month before this government took office, the financial forecast was bleak. The pre-election economic and financial update, otherwise known as a preview, that was prepared by the Ministry of Finance, forecasted a deficit of more than $98 million for the 2021 financial year. Again, this forecast was done 1 month before the 2021 general election and 1 month before this government took office. I am pleased to report that the actual results for 2021 is expected to be around $100 million better than when this government took office. My friends, the preview also forecasted that the government would need to borrow $140 million last year. I am pleased to report that we only borrowed just over $8.3 million to keep the line of credit established by the previous government alive. I am also pleased to report that the additional $170 million that the opposition leader previously alluded to will not be required by this government, as we have turned government's financial position around from a forecasted deficit of almost $60 million in 2022 to a surplus of close to $20 million, an improvement of almost $80 million in 2022. My friends, the very vocal opposition had 8 years to address the looming social welfare liability of the future as the baby boomer, Generation X, and millennial segments of our population age without adequate pension and health insurance provisions. Yet, they did nothing. I and many of my colleagues in the PACT government have been sounding the alarm on both the inadequate pension system and the lack of health care for seniors long before the issue became a pressing one. While in opposition, we gave the last progressive government the idea for the pension holiday, which they easily took credit for, but ignored the mechanics of how it needed to operate, making the long-term situation worse. This government is now investigating refinancing options, including but not limited to a bond offering, to ensure we are paying less interest every year and to invest in our island's long-term future. Regardless of how the borrowing is structured, any funds raised will enable vital infrastructure projects such as the completion of the long-term mental health facility, which was started under the previous government, completion of the East-West Arterial Road and other new roads, which was started under the previous administration and other governments in the past, a new undersea data cable to ensure a continued connectivity to the world, which was also started under the previous government, and finally, completing the delayed and mismanaged high school construction project, which was started over 14 years ago by the opposition. It will also provide equity injections to vital public services such as the Health Service Authority, Cayman Airways, and build a fund to allow elderly homeowners to use the equity in their homes to support themselves. The idea of a reverse mortgage is to reduce government payouts for social assistance to the elderly, not to increase government's costs. It is not fair or sustainable for the government to be assisting the elderly when they're equity rich but cash poor. We believe the right and fair thing to do is to let our seniors access their cash when they need it, which is now. This will ensure that our seniors can live with dignity without being a strain on the public purse. This government and I have continued to reiterate time and time again that we want to reduce the costs being laid on the people of the Cayman Islands. And that refers to both the cost of living and the cost of public debt. The high cost of living is a struggle for almost every Caymanian. We have already introduced programs and waived duties to alleviate this. The imputation by the opposition is that it is impossible to have both a healthy, balanced budget and a healthy, empowered population. The PACT government intends to show that it is indeed possible in a country as fortunate and as wealthy as the Cayman Islands, where even in times of struggle and relative hardship, we emerge on the other side. We can show this because we believe at our core that the only way to grow our economy and empower our people is to introduce programs and opportunities that will grow our shrinking middle class. My friends, I'm here to tell you that the trickle-down economic policies supported by the opposition don't work. It is clear that they have now doubled down on trickle-down while they're in opposition, and the days of giving massive concessions to the wealthy is over. These concessions should instead be given to the families, thus the reason to reduce the duty on essential day-to-day items. As I said before, politically, it is in the opposition's best interest to oppose rather than be a part of the solution. And I note their silence on what they would do differently. I am sure many public servants would like to know which of their services the opposition values the least that we should cut. And interestingly, it was the last PPM-led administration that secured a $403 million line of credit at 3.25% interest rate. Again, I refer you to Matthew 23, verse 27 to 28, which addresses the issue of hypocrites. The surprise being expressed by the opposition on the potential bond issue reflects why it is this government that will be returning the public finance to full compliance with the Public Management and Finance Act. The request on the government procurement side is for information only, to enable us to review all the options available to refinance the public debt. We're investigating multiple opportunities and will choose the option most beneficial to the people of the Cayman Islands, present and future. Of course, whatever proposal we choose will be debated in Parliament, where each member will be able to have their say on the matter, on both the government and opposition benches. If necessary, we'll also hold public meetings so you can have your say. The PACT government is committed to transparency and to being people-driven first and foremost. This is why I wanted to speak directly to all of you on this issue, to reassure you that nothing will be decided on outside of the public arena. My friends, the PACT government understands that this is your future and your children's future that we are trusted to make decisions on, and we do not take your trust or the honor of it lightly. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please share it to your friends and families so that they too can be assured that the PACT government is truly a people-driven, accountable, competent, and transparent government. Please remember to stay safe and remember that our best days are still ahead. God bless.